as well here on Kiwi. Time now is 7:41. Time to steer into space with Dylan Storey. Thanks very much to the Auckland Stardom Observatory. G'day there, Dylan.
G'day, Wammo. G'day, listeners.
G'day. Now, it was only a few weeks ago, of course, we were talking about the final shuttle mission and what that meant for the International Space Station, how they were going to get supplies into the future and new astronauts up there. And there's been a development on this week, Dylan.
Yeah, well, we were saying, no, we'll be fine. The Russians have got the Russians and Europeans combined have got the space station supply program well in hand, and they've got the Soyuz rockets which go up. They've also got the unmanned supply craft which grow up, which fly up there.
Yeah.
But the unmanned craft launched the other day and crashed.
Crashed? Holy cow!
Yes. Now that's the first time something like this has happened with a supply ship, like a supply rocket like this, since 1978.
Huh. Okay.
So a bit worrying.
Tell us what this thing looks like. I mean, does it look like a traditional sort of old school rocket?
Basically, yeah, we're still using that same rocket model, the same formula to get into orbit that we were the very beginning of the space age with Sputnik. It's basically just a big rocket booster with smaller rocket boosters on the side and carrying the capsule that will travel to space on top. And because of the speeds these things reach, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong. The tiniest little fault, as we know, can lead to catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened. But we don't actually know what the fault was, so we're waiting for that to be assessed, and so decisions can't really be made until we find out, or until the Russian scientists find out what went wrong. And
so this particular rocket was destined to get to the International Space Station, obviously with supplies that they need. This is very worrying, I suppose. I mean, if you were up there now thinking, oh, heck, if the Russians got this right, how are we, are we going to run out of food up here? How supplied are they at the moment, and can they survive for a few more months?
Well, yes, they can. Because the last mission that went there was the space shuttle, which is bigger than most supplies, or bigger than all the supply ships. They usually carry in excess of 30 days worth of survival supplies. But at the moment, they're carrying between 40 and 50 days worth. So they are well stocked at the moment. The rocket that crashed was carrying 2.9 tons of supplies, and most of that was fuel to boost the space station into a higher orbit. So as it goes around, there's a little bit of atmospheric drag from the tiny little particles that are up there, and its orbit, that slows it down, and its orbit degrades, it gets lower to Earth, so it needs to be boosted up every now and then. So it's missing that boost is the most important thing. The actual supplies for the people on board, they should be all right. Apparently, the one thing that they might struggle with is toilet supplies.
Oh no,
which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's always the little things like there was meant to be a whole nother tube of toothpaste on that shipment. Damn it,
Exactly. Yeah. Now we got 30 days without toothpaste.
Yeah. Okay.
But the boost problem, the boost up into a higher orbit is a problem. One thing I read that it is a potential problem for the long-term life of the space station. I'm not quite sure why this is. I think it is because it does need that perpetual boost to keep it in a high orbit, and sort of if it lags behind, it starts to be lower than it's supposed to be in its orbit. So the contributing drag, atmospheric drag, is more. So it will sort of permanently be in a lower orbit than ideal from now on, which decreases its lifespan.
Yeah, and is this? I mean, obviously, that's a bit of a disaster for this particular rocket. But does it put the whole program in question?
I don't think it puts the whole program in question, but it certainly increases the struggle. The red tape, the financial cost, all those sort of things escalate, and what is sort of NASA is on a shoestring budget, or the whole space program is, so it does set it back quite a bit in terms of the life and the life expectancy of the space station, and what it can do. You know, there's a big queue of scientific experiments waiting to be had, so I guess it'll cross a whole lot of those off the list just with the logistics of getting there.
You'd also be worried about being an astronaut getting into one of these capsules to get up there as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. Well, the next manned mission is planned for September the 22nd, but that launch date is going to be reassessed. So it all depends on what the fault they find it actually is. And so it's getting into orbit, which is the hard thing, and it sort of shows how vulnerable we are to that old method of getting into orbit. The same method. It's getting off the Earth, which is the hard part. If you're traveling through the solar system, so the probes that go out into the solar system, even far reaches of the solar system, even if we were going to go to the nearest stars, which is if it were possible, most of the what we call delta V, or change in velocity required, which is stuff that needs the energy for, something like 99% of that is just in getting off the Earth.
Huh. Yeah.
So escaping the Earth's gravity well, basically.
Yeah.
So it just sort of shows how space travel has come a long way, but we are still vulnerable to that massive expenditure of fuel.
Indeed. Well, for us people still with our feet on the ground, anything interesting to see in the night sky at the moment?
There's always interesting things to see. We're quite lucky at this time because the two best things to view in the sky, Jupiter and Saturn, are at opposite sides of the sky. So just as we're starting to lose Saturn in the evening sky, it's starting to get low in the west just after sunset. Very soon we will have Jupiter rising in the east, so it'll be a bright star-looking object rising in the morning, in the evening in the eastern sky.
Yeah.
So we'll still be able to see Saturn for the next few weeks to a month, and after that, Jupiter will be making an appearance.
Okay, cool. Well, for anyone who has got Google Sky Maps installed on their smartphone, they've just rolled out an update for that includes meteor showers and will pinpoint where possible meteor showers could be sighted in the night sky as well, which is kind of a cool thing. So if you're wanting to impress anyone with your knowledge about, we should be, if we stare at this spot long enough, we might be able to see something. Then
you can sneak a look on your phone, and see where it is in the sky.
Exactly.
That would be handy actually, a meteor shower app.
Yeah.
Meteor shower update.
Well, it's basically it's a wee overlay, I suppose, on top of Google Sky Map. But check that out in your smartphone marketplace. Hey, thanks very much, Dylan. And, of course, people want to check out more of this stuff, they can go along to the Auckland Stardome Observatory. Cheers.
Thanks, Wammo.
It's now 10 minutes away from 8 here on